Let's just imagine for a second that the worst has happened. Alarms are blaring, data is flying out the door, and your company is officially under attack. In that moment of pure chaos, what separates a small problem from a total disaster? Well, it really all comes down to one thing: having a plan. Today, we're going to break down exactly how you move from that moment of crisis to being back in control.
So, let's make this real. Right now, an alert just went off. Your systems are compromised. What is your very first move? Seriously, who do you call? What do you shut down first? If you're hesitating for even a second, then you're definitely in the right place.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about why a breach is pretty much inevitable. Then, we'll dive into why preparation is everything. From there, we'll walk through exactly how to respond when an attack happens, map out the road to recovery, and then wrap up by looking at the bigger picture, building a security culture that lasts.
You know, the big pivot in cybersecurity today isn't about trying to build some kind of impenetrable fortress. That's kind of old school thinking. It's really about knowing exactly what to do when, not if, someone finally gets over the wall.
And this is the tool that makes it all happen: the Incident Response Plan, or IRP. The best way to think of it? It's like a fire drill, but for a data breach. And listen, this isn't just some document that collects dust on a shelf. It's a living, breathing playbook that's designed to turn pure panic into a structured, methodical process.
So where do we start? Well, not with the attack itself. We start long before that, in the preparation phase. And honestly, this is where the battle is really won or lost.
This right here, this is the entire life cycle of an incident. It's a 6-phase journey that takes you from getting ready for a fight all the way to getting smarter after it's over. Let's walk through each one of these.
Okay, so in this prep phase, the most important thing is to make it real. You can't just write a plan and call it a day, you have to live it. That means training people, running mock breaches to see how they react under pressure, and, this one's huge, making sure the plan is funded before a crisis hits. Trust me, you do not want to be asking for money while the building is on fire.
And that is exactly why those drills are so critical. In a real breach, your adrenaline is pumping, and that's when people make mistakes. Practice builds muscle memory, which means your team can actually execute their roles calmly and do the right thing when it really, truly counts.
Okay, game time. The alarm is sounded. This is not a drill, the clock is officially ticking, and every single decision matters. This is where we get into the active response phases.
We're now in phase 2, identification. Before you can fight the fire, you've got to know where it is and what kind of fire it is, right? Was it an automated alert that popped up, a weird phone call from a customer, or worst case, an email from the hackers themselves?
The timeline here is absolutely critical. Knowing who found it and exactly when they found it helps you start to figure out the attacker's dwell time, which is just a fancy way of saying how long they've been poking around your network without anyone noticing.
And here it is, the million-dollar question. Is this just a single laptop that's been compromised, or is your entire customer database being streamed live to the dark web? Figuring out the scope is the key to our next and very critical phase.
All right, I need you to pay close attention here, because this is one of the most common and most expensive mistakes a team can make. Your first gut instinct might be to just wipe the infected machines, right? Just delete it, get rid of it. Do not do that. You are literally destroying the evidence you need to understand the attack and, more importantly, to kick the attacker out for good.
So instead of deleting, you contain. You pull the plug on the affected computers. You isolate that part of the network to stop the malware from spreading. And you immediately start changing passwords and credentials to lock the attacker out. This is all about stopping the bleeding so you can actually move on to surgery.
Okay, so the immediate threat is contained. The attacker is boxed in. Now, the slow, methodical work of cleaning up and rebuilding can finally begin.
Now, eradication isn't just about deleting the malware you found. It's about finding the vulnerability they used to get in the first place, that open door, and slamming it shut. Because if you only clean up the mess, but you leave the door wide open, guess what? They're just going to be back tomorrow.
Once you are sure the threat is gone, it's time for recovery. But you can't just flip a switch and hope for the best. No, you restore from clean, trusted backups. You patch everything. You harden the systems. You test it all. And then you watch it like a hawk, monitoring for any tiny sign that you might have missed something.
So, the crisis is over, but the work is not done. This final phase, lessons learned, is arguably the most important one for your long-term health. You have to do a post-mortem. What worked? What didn't?
And the biggest question of all, what fundamental weakness allowed this to happen, and how do we make sure it never, ever happens again?
And that brings us to the most important shift in thinking. That lessons learned phase can't just be a one-time report that gets filed away. It has to feed into a much larger ongoing effort. Because responding to a single incident, that's a project. But building real long-term security, well, that's a program.
Let's break down the difference here, because it's really key. A project has a clear beginning and a clear end, just like our incident response. But a program, that's a continuous, long-term effort to achieve bigger, strategic goals, like making the whole organization secure from the ground up. The focus shifts from the tactical, did we fix it, to the strategic, are we actually getting stronger over time?
And here's the kicker. This is a moving target. The plan that worked perfectly last year might be completely useless against the threats that are coming next year. A real security program is always looking ahead.
And when we say looking ahead, we're not talking about some abstract idea. I mean, look at this concrete example of next-gen threats, AI and large language models. These new tools are incredible, but they also bring brand new risks that we've never seen before, things like prompt injection and training data poisoning. Your security program has to evolve to even understand, let alone mitigate, these new kinds of threats.
And that leaves us with the final and most essential question. It is not enough to be ready for the last war you fought. True resilience means constantly learning, constantly adapting, and always preparing for the fight you haven't even seen yet. So, is your plan ready?